Hello, I'm Lloyd Moyer. In this video, you're going to watch me make this little face grain cup. It's tall, it's narrow, and it was turned wet, and it's been allowed to warp. It is right now about let's call it 2 3/4 inches long ways and about 2.5 inches in the other direction. So it's gone quite oval and it leans a little bit. Got put in the microwave after I finished turning it. And that was on purpose. It was a great little experiment to see how the wood would move as it warped once it was finished. And that's what you're going to watch me make in this video. So what I have today is one of these pieces of maple that I got, and this looks like it is an end grain blank, but it is not. It is cross grain. If you see, here are the growth rings coming across like this, coming around. So when this was in the tree, the bark was around here, and you can see the pith was right about here. So I'm going to make a sort of a pencil cup with this, but it's going to be all end or cross grain work rather than end grain. Now I've marked the center there already, and this is just going to fit in my jaws. And I'm going to bring my tailstock up here. And the fun thing about this is this wood is still very wet. So the idea is when the piece dries, so generally speaking, when the wood is drying, what effectively is happening is these round growth rings are trying to straighten out. That's why there's so much pressure in the center, in the pith here, because these growth rings are trying to straighten out and it's pulling at the center. That's why the cracks happen here, striations from the middle, because the fibers out here are still wet and are trying to straighten out, and these have already dried and they're not flexible anymore, so it pulls them apart. In any event, what happens that's fun with this is when it dries and the growth rings straighten out, you get this cylinder that then sort of it warps in a fun way. And so I'm gonna turn this round and hollow it out and finish it. I'm going to finish it and then let it dry. So turning it about 1,000 here. And again, you can't use a skew chisel or anything like that with this because it is it's not end grain. So my first order of business here is really what I want to do is to get a round part here that I can turn around and put the chuck in. Again, because it is face grain, you want to cut from small diameter to large. If it were end grain, you'd want to cut from large diameter to small. Okay. Drop my gouge. Okay, that should be enough. Are we round? Yes, we're round. So I'm just going to flip this around and grab it in the chuck. so that I'm a little bit more secure. Now I'm just going to make it round, and then I'm going to dig out the inside. I don't need this to be perfect. I just want it to be round, which it isn't quite yet. Now what I'm doing here is a shearing cut, because I can't use a skew chisel, but I can use a shearing cut with the bowl gouge. This is my 1/2 inch bowl gouge that I'm using. Still not quite round yet. Almost. Now I'm cutting with the nose of the tool here, right here, which is sort of the finishing cut that you use, or that I use, on the inside of the bowl. Actually, I want you to see where yeah, I can talk. The shaving is coming off just to the left of the nose here. And it's because I'm riding the bevel here. And you can see where the shaving is coming off. Until I make too many, then you can't see it anymore. Again, this is a cut that I make on the inside of bowls often, and you get a real nice finished cut on the inside. That's a pretty nice cut for a kind of hairy, wet maple. Taking the speed up a little bit here. I'm going to do this again. not terribly worried about the shape on the outside here yet. I'm going to be a little more worried than this, but in just a second, I'm going to take the scraper to it. Just to even it out. I don't know how deep I'm going to take this. Honestly, it's going to depend on how far I can reach. Ooh. Now, you'll see what happened there. As I was coming along here, this is a little higher. I was coming along, and the higher part of the wood caught on the top half of the scraper here and just dragged it down. And that's what caused that catch. This tool I generally use on the inside rather than the outside, which is probably why that just happened. But that's okay. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to leave a little band here. Because I want to, when I'm done here, I want to put a couple of beads on the outside of this. When you leave something to warp, you know, the finished piece is going to warp. Having some beads on the outside does a really good job of illustrating that. So, camera is right where my arm needs to be. This is my 3/8 inch spindle gouge. All right. Not quite round there. I don't know if I'm going to go down that far, like I said. Again, camera is right where you need to be here. I don't know if how far down I'm going to go here, but I want it to be round all the way down. Most of the way down anyway. That's fine. Okay. Now I just have to flatten off the top side here. So I'm going to flatten off the top side. I'm going to have my ring off. Always take your rings off. Couldn't do that again if you paid me. So when you're going in, you need to have I was open just a little bit much here, and it caught the edge and pulled it back. So if you have the tool turned all the way over on the side, then you can go in and then open up. Just like that. I'm cutting this like it's end grain also, so that's my mistake. Just flattening this off here. Now, The next part, you know what? Since I'm here, I might as well clean this up. The next part is going to be drilling out the middle. So I'm going to do most of it with the tool, but when you're going this deep, it's going to be helpful to use a Jacob's chuck. I'm just cleaning up this space here a little bit because there's a little chewed up. I think that's going to be okay. So what I'm going to do next is measure how deep I can make this. So in inches, this is, not quite 6.5 inches. Yeah, not quite 6.5 inches. And that is in millimeters. That's about, what is that? I don't know. Where's my millimeters? I don't know. Anyway, it's about 6.5 inches. Sorry. So I'm going to drill out with my, so I'm going to put in my tailstock here a 7/8 inch Jacob's chuck, or a drill bit in my Jacob's chuck. And what I'm going to do is this is going to sit so I have this at, there's 1 inch, and I'm basically going to go in 1 inch at a time, maybe 2. Make sure the bit goes all the way in. So if I can go 5.5, this is 6.5 inches deep, and I don't want to go any deeper than about right here. So I don't want to go any deeper than about 5.5. We'll call it 5.5 inches. Slow my lathe down a little bit. Drill bits work better at going a little bit slower. And I'm just going to go 1 inch at a time. There's 1 inch. And we're going to pull it back to 1 inch. So I'm 1 inch in. And now I can go all the way in to where I was. Boom. And then I'm going to go another inch. This just keeps the excuse me, the shavings from building up too much. So there's the second inch in. Go back to 1 inch. And then I push all the way in. Go another inch in. Pull back another inch. And that pulls the shavings out also. Then I'm going to advance the whole tailstock. So I'm 3 inches in. Four inches in. One more to go. Five and a little bit. And I do have the shavings pretty well impacted in there, so they didn't want to come out. All right. So now I have my tailstock out of the way. And I just have to dig out this hole, and I'm going to start with the bowl gouge. Remember, this is face grain, so I'm also going to tighten down, give another just a little more tighten down on the chuck to make sure I'm tight, which I am, because you're awfully far out here. So you still have to take a very gentle cut. Speed up here. I'm going to speed back up to about, this is about 1500. This part is hard to see. I can't really see anything either. But it's very largely feel anyway. So I'm getting this first part I'm trying to do with the bowl gouge before I get into the scraper, because the bowl gouge, of course, is much more efficient and a little bit more control. But the bowl gouge, you can't reach very far. Trying to stay out of the way. This is one of those things that, to be perfectly honest, I think I've done 2 of these in my life, and one of them was this morning. But it's a fun. I'm gonna. Sorry. I'm gonna take the scraper. I'm gonna take the scraper and I'm gonna go do my best to just go straight in. It's a fun exercise. Getting nowhere near going straight in, by the way. If you're higher up, it's easier to go straight in. That was a fun cut. It's always fun when you get big curly shavings, or with a scraper, these like big crepe paper looking streamers. Again, they're you can't really see what I'm doing here, but I can't either. I'm going to spare you a little of this because, like I said, there isn't anything to see. Okay, I have my depth, or I should say, I am down to the bottom of the hole that I drilled. Which is not all the way down here, but it is down to about there, which is pretty close to where I want to be. So the bottom of my tube is going to be right about there. I have some checks that are opening up here. That's how quickly the wood can dry and move. So I'm getting some surface checks. I'm going to leave them for now. So what I'm doing now is I want to go straight, do my best to go straight down the bottom here. Just trying to widen out the bottom. Again, sorry you can't see much, but neither can I. That's much better. I just am. I have a little ridge all the way down at the bottom. Okay. So I could go deeper than that. I certainly have room to go deeper than that, but I am just about at the bottom of how far I can go with my tool, because I still need to have, you know, some room on the tool rest. Yeah. All right, I'm going to try and go a little bit more. Because why not? That's getting me a little further. And I actually need to move this tool rest over. What I'm going to try and do now is actually, I think I might have a little bit more length on one of my other scrapers. And it's rounded, so I may be able to get a little deeper with this and then do the edge with that. The rattling you hear is just because I'm so far out from the tool rest. I'm basically trying to cut like this. The handle of this tool should probably be about 2 feet long, longer than it is. I don't have anything. Oh, here. This. Okay. That's about as deep as I want to go. Now it's just going along the sides. Okay. This is kind of a painstaking process, and it's almost entirely done by feel, I'm sorry to say. Okay. So now I just have, I'm going to have one more, I think I should be able to get this with one more cut down along the side here. I should be able to clean this up. There it is. It's also hard to tell, like I can't reach in there. It is hard to tell how clean it is and how much of what's all the way down at the bottom here is sort of torn up wood fibers and what is just lingering wood chips. Okay. Good. That's it. So now I have to worry about what I'm going to do with these checks, which have, like I said, have already opened up. I think I'm going to leave them just because I am doing this as an illustration. So I'm going to leave them for now. I may cut them out. No, you know what? I'm going to cut the worst of them out. I'm going to cut this off here because it doesn't do anybody any good. There we go. Now the piece looks a little less impressive because it's not quite as deep. Although I suppose, no, I'm happy with that. We're going to leave it just like that. And I am going to drop just a little bit of glue in these checks, which are smaller, just to keep them put for the time being. You know, if you can avoid using glue, go for it. I often can't. Sorry. So now what I'm going to do, you actually can see the inside of this better than I can. What I'm going to do is sand the inside. And what I have for that is a stick, which I just picked up and now I can't find. So let me find it. So I'm going to start by sanding the inside as best I can, which is not going to be very far. Actually, come to think of it, I wonder. I'm going to try, so long as we're playing here, I'm going to try getting in there a little bit with a bowl gouge. See if I can get a slightly better cut in towards the top. I'm going to use my 3/8 inch bowl gouge. Sorry, I'm sure you can't see anything here again. maybe the moral of this story is, you know, take a shot. You know, like, I still might ruin this, but if it means maybe doing a better job or getting a little better at what you're doing, it's worth it to me. Moving the tool rest over because I'm getting over towards the edge here. And I am getting a much better cut. But that's about as far as I can reach. But I'm going to say that went, you know, most of the way down there. So I'm not mad about that. Okay. Now I'm going to sand the inside. And I was planning to just do this with 120 grit, but I think I might do all of the grit as far as I can reach. So I have this stick for when I can't reach any further. And I put it on there backwards. You have to put it on there. You have to put it on here so that it turns around in the same direction that the lathe is turning. So that when the lathe pulls the paper, it pulls it tighter instead of pulling it looser. And this just makes me able to sand all the way down the inside profile here. A piece like this, I really don't worry about getting a perfect interior surface. Mostly because I can't, so no point in worrying about it. But also, there's no point in worrying about something you can't fix. You know, this sanding stick is not as effective as me actually holding the sandpaper, but it's the best I can do. All right, so next is 180. Now I'm also not going to be putting any finish on this just yet. Sorry, I need another roll of 180 paper. And I'm not going to be putting any finish on it just yet because I'm going to need it to dry first. So here's the 180 paper. And I'm just going to go down the sides here. And then I'm going to do the 220, and I can't really get the 220 into the sanding stick, so I'm just going to go as deep as I can with it. All right, so there's the inside done as well as I can do it. Now, there isn't a whole lot of shaping that I do here to the outside. I'm going to put the beads on here. I'm going to use my 3/8 spindle gouge for that. Again, we're very far out here, so I'm having to be very gentle. And what I want to do is I want this flat spot that I'm making here. This should be as close as possible to the diameter of the other side of this fan, so that when I make the beads, it looks like the beads are sitting on top of the surface. That's the idea. I'm just laying out my beads now. I know that there are lots of people that are way better than me at making beads, way faster. But you just do it as best you can. A lot of end grain tear out there, which I was kind of expecting. Maybe not. You know, when you're turning end grain that is, I'm sorry, when you're turning face grain that's this small, there's a lot of end grain in it, and it's, you know, it's very, very prone to tear out. But it also may sand easily. So, and also, you know, when you cut a bead, you usually are going from the top of the bead to the bottom of the bead, and on end grain, you really should be going the other way. So what I'm doing now is, this is just my 3/8 spindle gouge, I think I said already, but I'm just trying to do a shearing cut up the sides of those beads to minimize that that tear out, because the sandpaper will take care of it also. All right, now I'm going to mark where the inside of my inside depth is, which is right here. So I want my outside depth to be about there. Yeah, that should be fine. And then I'm going to mark this with my parting tool. I guess first I should go all the way around, or at least a little more around, so I can find it when I turn the lathe on. There's my depth. I'm just going to round this over a little bit Again, I'm doing it backwards. So I'm making the cut first and then coming up back and shearing from the smaller diameter to the wider, since I'm working on face grain. That's what it wants. And I'm going to try again to give myself a little bit of a shearing cut on the outside here to clean up some of this grain. And this is my shearing scraper. That I have specifically for doing what I'm doing right now. Well, not specifically, but it's for the outside of bowls. That's making a huge, huge difference. A little bit more of that, and then the sandpaper also will make a big difference with this. All right. How are we looking? This is 120 grit that I'm starting with. You know, it's really great when you get good enough that you feel like you can start sanding with a higher grit. So you know, I'm fortunate enough that sometimes I can start sanding at 180 grit and feel pretty good about it. I used to start at 80. I used to have 60 lying around just in case, but I would start at 80 and then go to 120 or 100 and then 120 and then 180 and then so it feels pretty good when you get to a point where you can sort of go to a higher grit. But do start wherever you need to start. Don't scrimp on the sanding. I remember my wood shop teacher in high school used to say that I would tend to do that. I would not take an adequate amount of time in my finishing because I was done turning. I just wanted it to be done. I'm still that way. So it's something that I fight with. Always have to remind myself to finish it right. Still have a little bit of tear out right here. Maybe you can see, maybe you can't. Nothing wrong with doing it with the lathe off too, if you need to. I remember reading years ago about someone wrote an article about it was like the 7 R's, you know, of a good salad bowl, or 7, I don't know, 7 characteristics. There was a hook to it, but it's 7 characteristics of a good salad bowl. And at the end, he said, notice that one of the characteristics was not round. Doesn't necessarily have to be perfectly round. And what he was saying is, if it warps, you know, or its natural edge you know, or some kind of unnatural or unsymmetric, not symmetric shape. Nothing wrong with that. I think what I was getting at with that was if you sand a little bit of the surface with the lathe off, it's not necessarily going to be perfectly round. But this kind of a piece that I'm making right now, it's not going to be round anyway. The whole point of this is that I don't want it to be round. I want it to warp and twist and go oval. It's one of the things that it's really neat about it. This is 220 that I'm using. And I need a new piece of 320. I also have heard people say that they don't that they sand up to like 2,000 grit or something like that. Again, nothing wrong with that. Um, I have sanded up to 2,000 grit. You know, you do 320 and then you have 400 and 600 and 800 and then 1,000 and 2,000. And I really don't see a difference. Really don't see a big difference between a good 320 finish and a good 2,000 finish. I just don't. All right. That looks good to me. So now I'm going to part off the bottom. Helps if you're going in the forward direction. Gently. When you're parting something like this off, when you get to the middle, you do it gently. And maybe you can catch it. There we are. So that's that step. So I'm just going to leave this on here, and we will use this to make a jam chuck to finish the bottom. Oh, no way, I'm that good. Every once in a while, you get lucky and you get the diameter almost just right the first time. And it feels like you're a pro all of a sudden. Don't worry, you're not. Or at least I'm not. My stepfather used to say, I'd rather be lucky than good, which was always kind of funny. I'd rather be both, I must say. He was both, still is. I probably could fit this around one of my chucks or fit one of my chucks into that interior. But this is really good practice for fitting box lids. So that's why I'm doing it this way. That's a little bit too loose. too much. Not quite. Let's do this. Holding on to this too, just because I don't trust myself. That part is fun when you can get it right. And it really is doing it this way. It, you know, just making that little jam chuck. It's so easy. I shouldn't say it's easy. Um, it's so easy to make it easy. It's fast, and it really is. Um, it's easy. It's great practice, and it's easy to get good at it. Now, I'm not good at it yet, but it's like I'm getting there. Um, this is a little piece of tear out there that I really should take care of. Dang it. All right. Here I am talking about getting good at something, and I'm going to mess it up. What did I say before about take a shot at something, take a chance at getting better? Part of what that is not allowing yourself to just do it good enough. That's really hairy. I think that'll sand though. Let me see. Trying to not do this with a scraper, because a scraper is a great way to um, tear the piece off of the jam chuck. Or at least it's something that I'm really good at, is tearing the piece off of the jam chuck when I try and do it with a scraper. And that just sanded right out. That was just hairy grain. $120. 180. 220. 320. Now, if I was really good, I would be able to just grab this and pull it off while it's moving. But the last time I tried to do that, I threw it halfway across the room. So I'm not going to do that. There it is. Now I'm going to show you in a few weeks, or maybe a few days, when this warps, I'll do the finish shot of how it looks after it's warped. But there it is. So here I am the next morning, and this looks like it hasn't moved a whole lot. But if you look at the end, it's gone very oval. And you can see, if I turn it just so, how it leans to the side just slightly. And that comes from the growth rings. Again, you can see where it's sort of fat-bellied over here, a little bit like me. And it's sort of bowed over on this side, while these growth rings have started to straighten out. Now, what I've done with this is put it in the microwave. It got about I think it got 3 1-minute shots in the microwave. And again, it's very oval. And what I'll do here, just to show you, I told you I've done a total of 3 of these guys. Here's its brother, leaning quite the same way, also very oval. And a slightly older piece. This is one that I did out of oak. And oak is much more volatile than maple, so he moved a whole lot more. But there's the 3 of them.